I'll just wait for you to join there.
All right. I'm requesting to join. Which audio do you prefer I go with? I guess Instagram. That's the delay we're going with.
Cool.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So hi, everyone. It's Wednesday, so I'm Kayla, as per usual. This is Katie below me or next to me, depending where you're watching. She's a music career coach, wellness coach, does all of that great stuff for musicians. That's so necessary. Katie, if you want to just talk a little bit about yourself and what you do, that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. So I call myself a holistic music career coach, basically meaning that I help women in music in particular, but really all musicians, build their sustainable music careers and make money. So I started as a wellness coach. When I first started coaching, I was really focused on wellness because I had suffered with anxiety myself, and I really wanted to help musicians not feel like they had to be in a constant state of burnout or stress, which is so common in this industry. So that's where I started. And then I just love strategy. So I was sort of doing strategy with my one-on-one clients anyway, and not all wellness or stress release or anything like that. So eventually it brought me here, and now I do everything. So my method is really holistic, meaning that I focus on strategy, mindset, and wellness, because I really believe that all three of those things are what's necessary to build a sustainable career and to do it without the stress, without the burnout, without the overwhelm. Sorry if you can hear my puppy barking in the background. He's not happy that I left him alone downstairs to do this.
What a cutie. What kind of dog do you have?
He's a Cavapoo. He's a mix of, he's like 75% poodle, 25% King Cavalier.
Oh, that's adorable.
He's cute, but he's still little, so he knows I'm in the house, so I think he's trying to bark until I come down and rescue him. But
I think we could deal with it. I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
I wanted to mention, anyone who doesn't follow Katie on Instagram, you should. I love your Instagram posts. They keep me motivated and keep me from losing my mind sometimes. And you also have a podcast that's really awesome.
Yeah, so the podcast is called the Out to Be Podcast. So while in my coaching, I have several different programs. Like my beginning program is called From Stress to Success, and that really is focused a lot on like figuring out how to set goals and figuring out how to manage your time. But the rest of it is like all around stress, because I really believe that's the foundation. But the podcast is really, really focused on mindset, mental health, and wellness in the music industry. So I'm doing solo episodes on there. I'm talking with guests on there, and it's all about just like navigating the world and feeling not so alone when it comes to these issues as musicians, because so many musicians deal with mental health disorders, or just, like I said, are stressed or are burnt out or are afraid to get there, feel like they're on their way there. So I really want to have the podcast as a space so that people can come and get the tools that they need to be able to cope, get the resources that they need, and just get the support. Because once you hear that somebody else has either gone through something you're going through and overcome it, or simply just gets how you might be feeling, it can be so helpful in really continuing on that journey and getting the help that you need, asking for the help you need, and knowing that it's not like a lost cause, or you're not alone or hopeless or whatever it is. So the podcast, again, it's the Out to Be Podcast, and you can pretty much listen wherever you listen to podcasts. We have an Instagram too, which is at Out to Be Podcast. So you'll get all the updates
for it, on Facebook. So I'm just typing it in for them so that they could see the spelling of it.
Awesome.
It's really good. I love it. I've listened a couple times. It's really, really good.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a fan, if I do say so myself. I mean, we have some amazing guests on there too. And sometimes we'll branch into strategy. Like sometimes we'll talk about money, because money is such a huge stressor. And we're going to talk about that today a little bit. So like sometimes it's strategy tangent, but it's always with the idea of like, let's get this stress under control and let's start feeling really, really good about what we're doing.
Right. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So I wrote a couple questions down that I already showed Katie prior. So we're going to start with those. And then If anybody else has questions, feel free to throw them in the comments at any point. And yeah, so here we go. What are some of your favorite de-stressing tips for musicians?
Some of my favorite de-stressing tips for musicians. All right. So I always recommend people get started with a morning routine and a nightly routine. Start with one just at the beginning, but you can really build that out however you want to, which makes it very exciting. So a lot of things that you'll hear people talk about are meditation. I'm a huge fan of yoga. I love yoga. I'm a yoga teacher myself. I don't really teach actively, but I'm certified, and it's just helped me so much with both my mental and physical health. Anything that is not work related, but that is going to help you take your mind off things, get that creative and maybe like stressful energy out, and help you feel good. So there's no right or wrong answer to this, right? Like some of my favorite things include, like I said, meditation, yoga. I think any sort of physical exercise is pretty much necessary and super helpful for de-stressing. I also love something that's a little bit creative, but not music, because sometimes we all love music. And so it's really easy to be like, oh, but music helps me de-stress and it's so much fun and I love it. But it's so easy to just cross that like work boundary there. And like it goes from relaxation to work real quick. And then the stress levels can kind of go right up if all of a sudden you're like, wait, I have to like get this song perfect, or I have to do this or that. So I think it's better to just allow yourself to do something that is tangential maybe, but not quite there, just so that you're not really dipping into that work life and you're staying into the stress-free zone. So something like doing a puzzle or maybe painting or dancing or things like that that are creative and they're going to get your creative energy up, but they're not going to like get you in the music work zone.
Right.
I also love that I'm a huge fan of Epsom salt baths. So like if you are having a really stressful day, Epsom salt's amazing because it will literally relax your body. And if you put a little lavender oil in there, or maybe a candle or something, it'll help to relax your mind. Like you can turn the lights low, just relax in the bath and really help you to get yourself into a place where you are sleeping well. So I like to do that before bed so that I'm able to get myself into a position where I'm able to get a really good night's sleep. Like I said, I highly recommend morning routine, night routine. You can pick one thing to do in the morning and one thing to do in the evening. But getting started with one thing in the morning is going to help you from just jumping in with your day and starting off like in a really reactive state. And then doing it before bed is going to help you get a better night's sleep. And when you get a better night's sleep, you're able to show up much stronger, be happier, feel better. Like it's just like a win-win-win. So we want to set ourselves up for success in those two pillars of our day so that we're able to deal with the stress that comes up throughout the day.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, especially about, I'm not a musician, but I am a writer. And absolutely, I'm creative to begin with. So kind of taking myself out of that and doing something else creative so that I'm still using that part of my brain, but not necessarily doing the work part.
For sure.
Totally helpful.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, whether if you're writing or you do poetry or something, like just make sure that you're setting some boundaries up so that you're not going into work zone or putting too much stress or pressure on yourself when you are trying to be relaxing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Henry on Facebook said, what people don't understand is that being a musician means you basically work 1 hour a day or so, but the rest of the time you're like going a little crazy.
It can definitely seem like that's the case if you haven't established, number one, wellness routines, number two, some structure to your day as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that a lot of my clients come to me because they're struggling with like, I don't know where my time is going. I have no time, but I'm also like not accomplishing what I want to accomplish. What do I do? And all of that really ties together. Like at the end of the day, so much of what we do is really about priorities. And I don't want to say like organization, but it's sort of just like knowing how much time you're going to spend on something and staying somewhat disciplined to that. It doesn't have to be super rigid, but it has to be like, what are your priorities and what's your plan to get it done? So I guess priorities and like strategy and getting really, really, really clear on that. Otherwise it's a hot mess.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree more. And it relates to us too with writing our, we write marketing plans for musicians, and they're they're giant documents and they can be really overwhelming. So we try to like break it down into really specific categories and say like, here's what you need to do first and don't think about anything else.
For sure.
And then here's what you do second and don't think about anything else. Like just focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Next question is, how can musicians reduce overwhelm?
Okay, so this is going to go back to question number 1. So like first and foremost, make sure you set yourself up with some wellness things that are happening. But if you're already overwhelmed, you're going to have to like get to the root of that and dissipate it. One of my coaches used to say, overwhelm is a choice. And I used to be like, sometimes I believe it. Sometimes I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? No, I'm so overwhelmed right now. It's not a choice. But at the end of the day, I really do think that overwhelm is something that you can control. And overwhelm usually comes for one of 2 reasons. The first is that you are not clear what your priorities are. And so you are overwhelmed because you have too much on your plate. You don't know what your focus is on. Or maybe you just took on too much at once. And so you're not sure what your like biggest priority is, or like you don't have the time. So that would probably be number 2, is like you feel like you don't have the time to execute things. So what I would recommend is to figure out, okay, where am I at right now? Do a brain dump, which is one of my absolute favorite things. Literally just take a piece of paper and write out everything that comes to your mind, everything that you feel like you have to do right now, everything that's on your plate right now, everything that is in your brain that you need to get out. Put it out on paper. And then once you do that, go through the list and start to categorize things. What are the things that are like absolutely urgent and time sensitive and things that you desperately want to make sure get done? Those are going to be your priorities. Those things, which really shouldn't be a lot of things, they should be like 1 to 3 things tops at any given time. Honestly, it should be less than that. It should probably be 1 thing at a time. But if you're in a place of overwhelm, you've probably taken on too much or aren't clear on what's going on. So you need to just kind of like check some things off and start to reevaluate. So get clear on what those top tier priorities are. That's what you're going to focus on from now on. If you need to get those other things off your plate by either delegating, canceling, stepping down, pushing the date off to later, whatever it is, go ahead and do that. Move those things off of your plate and then focus on that priority list and get it done. Get to work, get it done. If you still feel like you're here and you're like, I don't know, I just don't even know what my priorities are, like I just feel so unclear, then that's going to require just a little bit of extra effort to do the goal setting work of like, what do you want to be doing right now? What is your focus? Sometimes overwhelm comes just because there is literally no clarity on any of that. So for instance, musicians can focus on a million different things: releasing an album, launching a Patreon, getting press, getting Spotify followers, like building their Instagram. So many things they could be doing. And there's a lot of great experts out there teaching them how to do this. Oh, you need to be doing this in order to be successful. Oh, you have to be doing this in order to be successful. And so sometimes overwhelm is literally just like, oh my God, there's so much input and I don't know what to output. Like, I don't know what my goals are. I don't know where to take this. I don't know what to do from here. I actually just released an episode that is very aligned with this on the Out to Be podcast today. So you guys can go ahead and listen after this is over. But moral of the story being that if you are feeling that sense of overwhelm, shut everything down, stop listening to the podcast, close out the articles, get off Instagram, do what you need to do, and ask yourself, what do I really want to accomplish and what do I really want to focus on? I have a freebie that is a clarity kit that I released at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic just because, you know, everything kind of got tossed out. A lot of people had to pivot. So if you guys want that link, let me know. Just shoot me a DM at Zaccardi on Instagram and I'll send that over. But that's a great freebie to start with and a great exercise to do if you are feeling really overwhelmed in that sense. But it comes down to getting clarity, working with your priorities, taking action. That's going to help you get through the overwhelm. And I'll also mention that I think action taking is usually the way to resolve overwhelm, but sometimes overwhelm comes because of the opposite thing where you've been going so long that you are feeling burnt out. So in that case, take a break. Shut it all down, postpone it, cancel it, like I said with the other stuff, but then just take a break. Take a beat, rest, and then come back when you're ready.
Yeah.
So many people don't do that either. It's like there's a lot of resistance.
I'm guilty of it.
Or
I'm
like
so guilty of it.
But it's so necessary a lot of the time.
Yeah. There's a lot of times where like it'll be like 3:00 and I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten. I haven't peed. I haven't moved from this desk. Like that's a problem. Like I need to walk away.
Yep.
It happens.
It does. Yeah. And like when we're doing what we love, time can sometimes get away from us, but pay attention to how you feel and how your body feels. Take those breaks, whether it's a break throughout the day or whether it's like you literally take a weekend or a week off because you need to reset. No matter what it is, do what you need to do. Because if you keep pushing that, you're only going to get more and more overwhelmed. And eventually that's going to lead to burnout, which we definitely want to avoid.
People were asking me to type out your Instagram, so I did that real quick.
Awesome. I think I have a link. Let me go on right now. I think I have a link for the Clarity Kit. I just didn't want to say it off the top of my head because then I was like, if I'm wrong, it's going to be a hot mess. Let me see. I'll look for that right now, and I can give it to you guys once I find it. But otherwise, definitely just DM me, and I'll send it over.
Yeah. Awesome. So the next question was, are there any specific tools that you would recommend for preventing burnout?
Really, it goes back to everything we've talked about so far, not to be redundant, but the tools for preventing burnout really come down to that goal clarity, managing your time so that you're working smarter, not harder, and that you have time for, number 3, wellness scheduled into your day regularly. So definitely make sure that in your day and in your week, you are already doing wellness practices. Like the only tool that you need is the mindset shift that you need to be taking care of your body, not just when you are stressed and burnt out, but before that. Like we want to get out of a place of being reactive and get to a place of being proactive. So the only tool you really need, like the first thing, is just like change that mindset from thinking, oh, I'm good, I can keep hustling, I can keep stretching myself, I can keep staying in this place of overwhelm because eventually it'll be over, or it's only for right now, or whatever it is, right? We make excuses, we let ourselves get to a place where we feel insanely stressed, and then at that point, it's so much harder to come out of it. Make it your number 1 priority to work on that preventative care and avoid the stress before it even happens. If you have time built out into your day for things to go long and for you to rest and relax and for you to take care of yourself, then that burnout and stress probably isn't going to come and you're going to be able to manage it so much better. So that's where we want to be. We don't even want to get to that place.
Yeah. And it definitely is important to what you just said, give yourself, buffer time. That way, 100%. If something goes wrong or if something just needs to be extended, you have that extra cushion of time and you don't freak out.
For sure. Like if you have meetings or co-writes or just a lot of admin work, make sure that you're giving yourself breaks in between each thing. That way, if something goes over, you have some time of a little bit of a buffer and you're not, working like 12 or 16-hour days because you like mismanage your time and you don't actually calculate things right. And then you just like keep going. But also with that, stick to your time boundaries. Like if you carve out a certain amount of time to do something and it's taking longer, leave it for today and schedule it into your calendar for tomorrow or the next day that you have time for it. Like it's so important for us to not go into perfectionism and not feel like we have to throw the whole calendar or throw the whole plan away because we did go over. And I think sometimes we go, like it happens, right? Sometimes if it's a new task, we just don't know how long it's going to take us. So we plan for the wrong amount of time and we need more. It's cool. Just the next day, get up, put in your calendar, do what you can do. But don't stress yourself out by giving yourself like imaginary deadlines or putting imaginary pressure on yourself that you have to keep going at a real unrealistic pace. And again, working those really long days or not taking breaks or doing something like that, because that is just like burnout. You're going right there. So plan in advance, give yourself enough time for any actual deadlines that there are. Give yourself enough time to get everything done well before those deadlines are. And then if something does go long, you have wiggle room in there while still having time to take care of yourself, even if you have to do a little bit more work than you anticipated.
Yeah. That's awesome advice. I completely agree. It took me a long time to like give myself that like, okay, I work 10 to 6 and that's it. It took a long time for me to stop working till 7, 8, 9. Like, it took a lot of discipline and
Yeah.
being burnt out and overwhelmed and figuring out, oh wow, like I don't need to do this to myself. Like I could have pushed that to tomorrow.
Yeah. And sometimes we pretend it's expectations from other people, but usually it's just expectations we have within ourselves.
Yep.
And sometimes we're just afraid to communicate that with others. But
Ariel has never asked me to work late. I just have done it.
Exactly. And I'm sure that like if you worked late, or you did it in the morning, it probably wouldn't make a difference.
No.
It really wouldn't. It's just about how you approach it and the boundaries that you set within yourself. So, having that kind of conversation with yourself and really paying attention to what you need, when you best work, when you best get things done, is so important. Because a lot of times it's like, oh, I'll keep working until 7, 8, 9. We don't even work well during those hours because we're hungry and we're feeling like brain fog from the day. Why are you wasting your time? Just go to bed, get up, do it in half the time in the morning, and like you're literally wasting time by overworking sometimes. Yeah. So that's like an efficiency hack too. When I talk about working smarter, not harder, it's also about knowing when do you work best and are you totally overdoing it by working really long hours or working during times that don't actually serve you, and how could you better improve that? How could you work in a way that serves you better and in a way that allows you to actually get things done faster?
Right. Exactly. Hi, Eli. Eli Love just said hi.
Hey.
The next question was, what are the best ways musicians can make money right now during, with everything going on?
Yeah. So many. Now, like we talked about earlier, there's a lot of things musicians can be doing, right? So it really depends on what your focus is on. But main thing is make sure that you are adapting to the virtual landscape right now.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that's virtual gigs, whether that's launching a Patreon, because Patreon is always virtual, and so that's going to be something really great to do. Anything like that you can adapt what you were already doing to go virtual. Or if you were in a position where you were going to start a new project anyway, this is a great time to do so because everything's shaken up, there's no rules, and you have the opportunity to kind of start from scratch and create something new. So starting a little bit vague here, and maybe everyone who's listening, you can comment what you guys are kind of working on right now so we can go into some of the specifics. But first thing is like, come up with some sort of idea or plan that is aligned with what you've already been spending your time doing, but also is aligned with the current landscape. That's going to be digital. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little bit in person, right? Maybe some places, if you live in a smaller place where you can open up maybe a little bit in person, but really to widen that reach, it's going to be digital. Second thing is ask yourself, what are other skills or things that I have that I can capitalize on? I have several clients who also teach music, and with everything going on, they've been able to raise their prices, expand their studios, and run really cool things like courses. One of my clients did a songwriting course. So it's a group course where it's a pretty high ticket program, and she's able to teach more people at a higher and basically make more money doing it is what I'm trying to say. Like she's teaching more people in 1 hour or whatever, but there's 7 people in the course. So she's getting paid for all of those 7 people. So she's really maximizing her time, her energy, and her money there. So things like that, where it's like, okay, what is that one thing that you were going to start that you didn't start yet? Or that one skill you have that you've sort of like been toying around with, but now is really the time you can start to implement it and make money from it. I mean, there are so many different ways to make money, but I really think that the strongest thing is to get grassroots with it and figure out what your grassroots strategy is going to be. Connect with your fans, connect with those people who are really supportive of you and always have been. Connect with those people who have been following you and comment on your stuff and like your things and open your emails. Ask them what it is they want and that they would actually enjoy and like to see from you at this time. Market research, when you are figuring out how to make money and what to sell, is so important. So get in the DMs or email people who are those fans of yours and ask them, hey, do you want this or this? Or, hey, would you like to see something like this for me or no? Don't just go out there and start to throw spaghetti at a wall and be like, here's our t-shirts and here's our virtual gig and it's free and here's our virtual gig and it's paid and blah, blah, blah. Try to do all this stuff, right? Focus in on one thing first. Come up with an amazing strategy. Make sure you're talking to your fans and talking with your fans and talking to your fans. So make sure you're actually communicating with them, and that when you're showing up and you're marketing it, you are talking to them and you know what they want because you've been talking with them and done that market research. And then it's something else that kind of I was just reminded of when I was talking is don't do too much for free. So you want to pick one thing, stick with it, come up with your page strategy and how you promote it, and keep in mind to not do too much for free. This isn't so much the case anymore, but like a lot of people went live on Instagram as soon as this all happened and we all went online. We're still online, and now everyone's kind of trying to figure out, okay, where do we go from here? Don't go live on Instagram. This is my opinion, but based on what I've seen work and not work, unless you already have people who are tuning in for your lives and are giving you virtual tips and they're used to it on Facebook and Instagram, don't necessarily just use those platforms and give too much away for free, because then if you try to implement a strategy where there is a paid gig and a virtual gig and it's $25 for the ticket, they're going to be like, why would I do that? She's live on Instagram every day. I just see it there. So find that balance between paid stuff and free stuff. You want the free stuff to tease into the paid content, but not give them so much that they're unwilling to pay you for your time and that they no longer value you and your art.
Right. Exactly. So like tease on Instagram Live, but save stuff and promote constantly a paid gig. That way they're used to seeing a paid gig and it doesn't like take them by surprise and turn them off immediately.
Totally. So if gigging is what your focus is on right now, excuse me, maybe you do some IGTVs of covers, or maybe you go live and you do 2 songs tops. And during that set, you are promoting your paid gig. So essentially you want to have sort of like a funnel. I don't love using the word funnel because I think sometimes when people think about that, it sounds super big and complicated.
It has a bad connotation, but it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, but maybe like they're starting at the top of the slide with the paid thing, and you want them to come down and ease their way into that paid offering. Excuse me, they're starting with a free thing and they're easing their way into the paid offering. That totally makes sense, right? Like it's super easy, it's in a flow, and that paid offering, make it fun, right? What can you offer for them? How can you get creative here? Can you offer merch packages that you mail to them with a VIP ticket? Can you offer pre-show talk for a VIP ticket or something like that? Or can you have song requests go for people who pay for this show? Like, what can you do? And of course, this is I'm using as a virtual gig example, but you can implement the similar things for Patreon, or maybe for doing lessons with people, if you teach voice, or if you can produce music or things like that. Get creative in this virtual space. See how you can be promoting it by teasing that free content, sending them to the paid, and make sure that your Instagram and website are also supporting this. So if you have a free gig coming up, if you have merch, maybe that's the only way they can make money right now, that should be the link in your bio. You should be directing people and have it really, really, really clear how they can pay you for what you're doing. Because if it's not, they're not going to know. So that's going to be the priority there. And of course, you can have posts, and you can have links and story highlights and whatnot that are talking about your other stuff. But for Instagram, link in bio, definitely make it the paid thing. Make it really clear to people how they can support you.
Yeah. Absolutely make it clear to people, because sometimes it's really, really not, and they have no idea, like, especially with, like, for example, a Spotify pre-save campaign. A lot of people who listen to music but aren't musicians don't really understand, like, why hitting that pre-save is important. So what we suggest that our artists do in their newsletters or in their posts is explain like why this is going to trick the algorithm, which is going to give us more streams, which is going to get us playlisted, which is going to, you just explain it like as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that you brought that up too, because explaining the value of something and making sure that, especially when it is something like, hey, pre-save this or take this action, make it really clear why taking this action is going to do something for the audience member. And maybe in the pre-save, it's like, hey, what this is going to do for you is make you really feel like you're in a community because we're rallying together. We want to get this song, like, all of my fans, let's get this song. We're a community. We're going to get this pre-save so that when it comes out, we have so many pre-saves and the streams are up and it's going to get on more playlists and that kind of thing. For other things, like for maybe you're inviting them to a virtual gig, what are they going to get out of it? When you are selling online, and a big problem I hear from a lot of my clients is feeling salesy, right? To promote their music, to promote their gigs, to promote their lessons, whatever it is. To not feel salesy, remember that you are giving somebody something that they need and they want. So as you're talking to them, make sure that when you show up, you are sharing that. You are expressing, hey, this is why this is going to be impactful for you. Hey, this is why you want to get in on this and why this is so amazing and epic. Come at it from their point of view, as opposed to the mindset of like, oh my gosh, how do I beg them to come to my thing? Or how do I convince someone to pre-save my music? Think about what they're getting out of it and approach it in that lens, and you'll get so many more results from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Or offer something, like make an offer in exchange for a pre-save or a newsletter sign up or anything like that.
Yeah, bonus tracks or behind the scenes stuff, a behind the scenes video, always a great thing that people can get out of it.
Yeah. Okay. What are some tools for time management for musicians? And just a warning, we have about 15 minutes left, and then Instagram's going to yell at me.
Okay,
what are some tools for time management?
Earlier, I mentioned a brain dump for Overwhelm. That's something you can also do at the beginning of starting to figure out your calendar and manage your time. Do a brain dump, figure out everything that's on your list. What are your recurring tasks, things that happen every day or every week? What are your project-based tasks? AKA maybe you are planning a virtual gig, and for that you need to make the flyer or get the link up, promote it, that kind of thing. And what are your personal / wellness-based tasks? A lot of those will kind of be recurring as well, but get really clear on that. Start to categorize a little bit. I'm obsessed with Google Calendar. I use it. If Google Calendar didn't exist, I wouldn't do anything. I would forget everything that was on my plate. So take that brain dump and then go ahead and open up Google Calendar, put it in Google Calendar. Start with your, start with your personal / wellness related things, because we want to get wellness in there, make sure that we're reducing our stress. And personal is important because, listen, you're not working to live. You're not living to work. Like, you are working so that you can have a life of freedom and do what you want to do and actually enjoy your life. So put that life stuff in there, have fun, put some fun stuff, time for you, get that in your calendar. Meals, get that in your calendar. Then go ahead and put in your recurring tasks. And then and you can set them up as recurring so that they appear automatically. And then go ahead and put in those project-based tasks. And you can do this every week at the start of your week. You can do it every month if you're kind of that far ahead of things. Leave enough room, like we talked about earlier, for space. I personally like to take Fridays off, or what I like to call a magic day. So I don't really schedule anything for Fridays. Instead, I allow myself to wake up and do whatever I feel called to do. So sometimes that's going to be working. Maybe it's creating, like last Friday, I was creating an enrollment page for a new program that I was doing, that because I was having so much fun with it. I was so excited to do it. Some Fridays, I don't do anything. Sometimes I just play with my dog or watch TV or lounge out because that's what I need. So that's something you can take or leave. But I love to implement that because it makes sure that I'm still getting everything done. If I am behind on work and I need to work on Friday, I choose to work on Friday, I do. If I feel like I just need a mental health day or a break or some fun, then that's what I do. So it allows you to have a little bit of flexibility. I keep my days pretty structured. Otherwise, Monday through Thursday is pretty structured. I also implement batch working. So what I mean by this is basically batching similar tasks together. So on Mondays, I'm doing only admin behind the scenes work. I'm not taking any calls. This is because I don't want my brain switching from like behind the scenes admin stuff and that zone to having to like show up on a call and like look nice and be talkative and stuff like that, right? Whereas Tuesday through Thursday, I'm doing more of that work. Now, I might do a couple random admin tasks as necessary throughout that, but I'm focused more on coaching, talking, teaching, that kind of thing. So if you can kind of batch work your admin stuff, maybe press outreach. Maybe you have a day where you organize your Patreon content or you plan your gigs or something like that. Figure out what categories of work you're doing in this phase that you're in currently and see how you can batch similar tasks together, because that's just going to optimize your energy and ultimately your time. If you're energized and focused, you can work faster.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. The last question that I had written down is, what are some ways to instantly change a negative mindset?
Take a beat. Step away. You want to instantly change it. You need to step away from that which is stressing you out. So if you're feeling negative, step away and then close your eyes or take out a notebook and say or write down 3 things that you are grateful for right now. It's really easy to get bogged down in the stress, the uncertainty, everything that's going on that we've been dealing with over the last 6 months or so. I think gratitude practice and just taking note of what you're grateful for can immediately ground you down into like the reality and the positive and the fact that not everything is horrible and you don't have to be falling into that negativity trap or that negativity spiral. And then ask yourself, do I need to just take a deep breath, or do I need to maybe step away from whatever it is that's making me feel negative and come back to it? And then the last question is, do I need support through this? Do you need the support of a friend, a coach, a mentor, maybe a therapist, whatever it might be, to help you through whatever is really causing the issue at hand, the negativity?
I love that. I love that. Especially like stop, write down things that will literally put your mind in a better place. I love that.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Well, that's all the questions I had. We have about 10 minutes left. If anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them in the comments. If you have anything else that you wanted to talk about, want to touch on, go for it.
Yeah, no, this was amazing. So much fun. Thank you again so much for having me. Sorry that my dog is still barking. He's crazy, man. But I know I mentioned the Musician's Clarity Kit. Like I said, go ahead. You can DM me on Instagram at Katie Zaccardi, and I'll send over the link for that if you want to download it. It's totally free. So that's a great resource. Like we talked about, the podcast is the Out to Be podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you have any other questions or you're watching this on the replay and you just want to reach out, DM me on Instagram. I'd love to talk with you.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. I think we're good to go. This was
awesome. Thank you so much, Kayla.
Thank you. It was awesome. Thanks so much. You give amazing advice.
Oh, you're so nice. I love doing it. I love to talk. So
good. That's what we needed.
I love it. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.